Okay. We're here on the Finance Committee. All members of the committee are present, along with Councilman Baker and Councilman Marks. I will move to approve the minutes from September 25th, 2023.
Second?
Okay. I have a second. Any discussion? All those in favor, say aye. Aye. All right, the ayes have it. We're here on one item. It's Resolution 2020-49. It is to approve the ordering of an ambulance for delivery in 2026 and a boat for the Division of Fire for delivery in 2024, and committing to including to the purchase of those items in the respective budgets. Now, just as background, from what I understand, we order the ambulance today. We might get it in late 2024, correct? Is that, or is it 26? Is the boat 24? Okay, so 26, and then boat is in 2024. This is a total amount of $750,000, $484.29, it looks like. The ambulance price is held until November 7th, right? Okay, and the boat's price is held until December 31st. Okay. And from the conversation at the last meeting, it looks like in 2024, we're going to have to spend, was it $52,000 on a payment, and then about $335,000 in 2026. Looks like, well, for the ambulance, looks like, and for the boat, looks like $130,000 has to be set aside about 2023. Okay, those numbers are a little different. Okay, those are broken out, I see on the Excel sheet. My understanding was 2026 was around 194. Okay, there. All right, so some background questions. I'm just curious from the administration, at what point did you folks decide that you needed to make this ambulance purchase and the boat purchase? Like, when was that decision made?
Peter, you want to start, or?
Mr. Chairman, we have our budget discussions every year, and we meet with all the departments and the divisions individually, and we talk about, one, their operational needs, and two, their capital needs. So we do talk about both of those things, sometimes simultaneously. So it seems like the capital needs kind of go on, and we have, multiple discussions about those. So we knew this was a need that they had, and they're on the capital plan, and these items are things that we started talking about the logistics of it. We ran into the same kind of logistical issue that we presented to you last year, about 18 months ago, similar thing with the lead time, especially with the ambulance. So when we were kind of wrapping up our meetings with the fire division, that's when we kind of decided, hey, we really need to get this rolling now as opposed to later. Otherwise, we're not going to have the equipment when it would otherwise be needed and necessary for the fire department.
So when was that conversation?
Maybe a month ago.
September, August?
Roughly September, I would say.
Okay. I understand that we were, or you folks were considering having it in the budget, at least for the boat, in 2021 to replace it in 2022. Yes, Chief?
That was
October 4th, that conversation was had. So with the boat, I'm understanding that there was a consideration to put in the budget in 2021 to get it replaced in 2022. right? That conversation I remember from the council meeting. Okay, so last year was $260,000 that you said, and now it's at 334,000, right? But it wasn't desperately needed last year, though. Okay, so the pause caused it to be desperately needed, to put it forward. Okay,
I would not agree that the pause caused it to be desperately needed. I think we have an evaluation with all of our vehicles at least annually, including our fireboat. It's been on numerous discussions over the course of the years. As Chief mentioned, we look for alternative ways to fund these things. I believe the original boat was through a grant. We looked at those opportunities again, and we collectively agreed that, you know, it should be for the 2024 budget, which is where it's at.
okay, so it was agreed rather recently to put it as a part of the 2024 budget after not bringing it to council back in 2021 or 2022, right? That's what I'm hearing. Okay.
So, Councilman, real quick, we meet annually as a apparatus committee. The fire marshal chairs that. There's a few members on that committee. It's been in our sites for some time because the service life of the boat that's currently in the water for the Lakewood Fire Department is approximately 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
We've put this request knowing that the service life was coming to the end and that we needed to replace it. We've made repairs to the rubber tubings, we've made repairs to bilge pumps to pump the water out, and now we're starting to have issues with the motor on the back of it. So it's to the point now it's a risk-benefit type of thing, and we're going to be spending more money to repair this than you're going to get out of the service life remaining of it. So you repair that motor, that repair will last you longer than the boat itself is going to last you. So the proposal for the safe boat is a little bit larger vessel, makes it safer to operate for the crews that are going out there. And then the service life or recommended service life about with this type of boat is approximately 25 years. So this boat's going to surpass all 4 or 5 of us careers at this department. So that's kind of the direction and where we wanted to go. We understood that that was a significant increase in pricing, so we were trying to figure out all ways to do it. Captain Catani helped with a Port Authority grant that we tried to get. We tried to obtain multiple sources of funding, and they fell short. So now we're at the point where, you know, I would have concerns along with the fire marshal about how much longer that boat can safely operate in the water.
And you all wisely negotiated to make sure, and as I think the chief said at the last meeting, to be able to hold the pricing until this November 7th and till December 31st in case council wanted to examine a nearly $1 million purchase, right? Plan for that? Okay. Other question in parts of section 2 of the resolution is probably for Mr. Vargo. I don't know how section 2 is enforceable in any way. It's my understanding in dealing with similar provisions in other contexts that you can't really commit a body, a future body, to something. For instance, I mean, the entire makeup, if anybody else was opposed, of council could have changed November 7th. By the time 2026 rolls around, it could be entirely 3 different council people at the at-large area. So I'm just curious about the thoughts behind Section 2 and committing future bodies, because council acts as a body, to a budgetary, pretty much to an action.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. That's a very thoughtful question. And it would transcend even this issue here. It's a theoretical question as to what you can do to bind future legislatures. I admit I haven't considered that for this meeting. But what this resolution is asking, as you know, is for the current council to approve these purchases. If there has to be a way for this council to recognize we need to place an order today to get an item in 3 years. We cannot afford to wait 3 years and go to that legislative body. So there has to be a way, working on behalf of the people of Lakewood, for this legislative body to make this happen. Whether that is technically, functionally committing a future legislature, or whether it is just binding the current council to say, yes, we are allocating these funds, and we can allocate it all this year to be spent in 3 years, and therefore you're not binding any future council. I'm thinking on the fly, but there has to be a way for this body acting in the best interests of the city to make sure that in 3 years we have this item ready, accessible to us.
Thank you, Mr. Vargo. And I would just say it's pretty risky to bind a future council for payments that the city is going to rely on. So that's just something to think about between now and November 6th in how you want this budgeted in terms of, have it encumbered or allocated for that purpose and not. Sorry if I'm not using the correct terms off the top of my head.
Mr. Chair,
Yeah.
if I may, if you recall, I believe last year around this time, we said something similar, and I want to say it was with maybe our police vehicles. I can't recall off the top of my head, but we did something similar because, as discussed in the letter, the lead time it's taking to get these vehicles extraordinary long. So in order to lock in today's prices and also ensure that our safety forces get the equipment that they need timely, we've again gone this route in hopes that we could get approval for these two pieces of fleet equipment. So there is precedent, is what I'm stating.
I understand that. Thank you, Mayor George. Even though there's precedent, I don't, personal opinion, don't think it's enforceable. If a future council decided not to appropriate the money in 2026, I don't believe there's any enforcement mechanism to make that happen. Not saying that it won't happen. I'm just saying it's not. So it's a risk, but that's what it is, right, with future spending and things like that. Likely will happen, likely will be appropriated. I'm just looking out for everybody and make sure you guys get what you need, right? Don't want to think where you guys would think, oh, this money's coming in, this is all good, and then some future council that doesn't contain us says no. With the ambulance vehicle maintenance, you guys look at that like every, 3 years or 5 years for a vehicle? I'm trying to remember. Some sort of schedule, right?
Sure. Sorry about that.
It's all right.
We try to keep our ambulance fleet on a replacement schedule of every 3 years. We typically keep an ambulance for 12. We can try and stretch that, 13, 14. You're really, you're maxing out the life of an ambulance at that point. So what we do is we rotate them. We usually operate each ambulance at each station for 6 years, and then it rotates to a different station, and then it becomes a spare in case we have a mechanical failure or a breakdown or, routine maintenance. We have an ambulance that's ready to jump into service. We actually had an issue over Labor Day where we were out of ambulances, and the entire shift had to put an axle back on an ambulance to make sure that we could get back to our 3 ambulances, which we're obligated to provide. So when we are planning this stuff out, the pandemic really threw a wrench in our system. The last ambulance we purchased in 2020, we purchased it for $260,000 prior to the pandemic. The one after that, which was we had the resolution last year for an ambulance and the fire engine to do a future purchase like we're requesting right here. That was $350,000. So that was in a 3-year span, it went up $90,000. So the pandemic really threw that wrench at us, and the lead times are just astronomical now, and it's a supply chain issue, it's a workforce issue, and unfortunately, we have to deal with it, and we have to, look that far ahead to make sure that we can stay on track, because in 2025, we don't want to come to the table and say, hey, we need 3 ambulances right now because every single one of them is broken down or out of service.
Right, and I really appreciate that because you guys got a plan for that, and I appreciate y'all planning for that, looking ahead. I mean, guys, the closest things we have to Boy Scouts in the city, being prepared and all. But when is that so when do you know you're gonna you're gonna need an ambulance in the budget?
It's usually a conversation that the apparatus committee has with the fire chief, and then the fire chief comes over here to City Hall and speaks with finance and the mayor about, hey, next year we really need to start thinking about this, or this needs to be on the radar. And this is what I'm hearing from our group, that these lead times are extended out. So that's, within the committee ourselves, we're discussing those things, and then I take them to the chief, who in turn comes over here and makes the request.
So where did that happen? When did that happen this time?
It happens pretty frequently. We try to meet on a quarterly basis. And we look at the age of our vehicles. We look at, the mechanical reliability of these vehicles. Some vehicles are just more reliable than others. And it's like owning your cars at home. You may have a car that this car is going to run forever. And then you have a car that's like, I can't wait to get rid of this thing. So it's very similar to that. Those are the conversations we're having. We're looking years in the future to make sure that we can provide this service. So when we have these conversations, a lot of times, I have to do some convincing of Chief Dunphy to say, hey, this is what we need. And, nothing really comes over here without the fire chief's approval.
Right, so you did all that due diligence and then didn't get the council till October 16th, right?
Yes.
Okay. Anybody?
Mr. Chair. All right, thank you. Welcome, administration, a lot of administration members, including all the top talent in the fire department, and it's ample. So thanks for being here. We're going to get, this solved together. So the conversation tonight, I think, is to understand the proposal, understand the budget impacts that are beyond this proposal. And so I've got some clarifying questions around that right now, and I think I found the relevant part of the existing 2023 budget to help me get the context that I was asking for at the meeting. But I'll open by saying it's perfectly responsible and positive, and I appreciate it that the fire leadership is anticipating and proposing and planning ahead the delays and the price increases. And so, the finance director did a very nice job in the chart on screen here showing the breakout. So all that, we certainly welcome and appreciate. Part of the reason we're discussing it here, I think, tonight is that any time we depart from normal order of multiple readings, we kind of have higher scrutiny. I also see on the docket, I think there's some proposed changes contemplated to the original draft, and so maybe it's a good thing that we've had the chance
That's
to
correct.
take a look at the language.
Administration did send us today at 4:11 PM, proposed substitute to this.
Okay, and so there's some, valid corrections and updates. It also sounds like there's accessories for the ambulance that are needed as well. I'm guessing that's the kit that you fit out the base model with or something, right, and all the tools. So, I say that preliminary because I know the chief and I had a conversation after the meeting. The point of having more discussion is not to slow down or undercut the need for needed fire equipment. It's for us to do our financial due diligence. So thanks for that. So if I understand correctly, and maybe this is as much for the finance director, what I think, so I'm looking at the capital budget, page 183 in the existing approved budget, which we don't have up on screen, but I called it up from my records here. I do see there's a proposed fire medical squad for 2026 already in the capital budget that accompanies our budget document that's in effect right now, and also the rescue boat, the fire rescue boat for 2024. So let me just start by clarifying. The only change proposed here is timing, and also the timing of portion of the payment, and then secondly, the price increase reflected here for the actuals compared to the estimates that we had. The estimates were $300,000 for the rescue boat in 2024 and $375,000 for the fire medical squad in 2026. That's what shows on the future capital budget chart I'm looking at. The actuals here are higher than that, and we've done a good job of explaining why. But so maybe Director Rankator, so the request is, A, approve the ability to place an order now for these future purchases, number one, and number two, you're showing, this is not in the ordinance, but the chart on screen here would show that we anticipate needing to make early down payments for both vehicles ahead of the delivery. So that's it. And then the question I would have is, if that's accurate, what impact on the future budget is there, and what sources and funds are we still paying for it out of the Capital Lease Fund 301? And because of these price increases, are we losing any future equipment purchases because we're agreeing today to these decisions potentially?
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Bullock brings up a lot of interesting points. One thing that I was going to mention before Mr. Bullock did is, yes, this was in the capital budget and planned for 2026. The number is in there. You can see it along with all the fire's other equipment. I don't have last year's budget. I have kind of a example of what we'll have in this year's budget book. But that's planned out as part of what the apparatus committee does put together to give to the chief. They relay that information to us, and we put it in a plan. Some of their plan goes beyond 5 years. We don't really have the capacity in the book to go like that far beyond 5 years, but we do like to know. I mean, once they want a fire engine, I mean, that's, $1.3 million that we have to come up with. All of a sudden, they're kind of planned for. So, Mr. Bullock, I can't remember all the points you made. You made some great points when you asked that question. Did I answer everything that
I think so. So just confirming, the proposed change is not really a radical departure from the previously conveyed and communicated plan, but it's just making sure that we hold our place in line for these vehicles. We're agreeing to a price increase, but we're dealing with actuals in an inflationary environment compared to estimates from before. We're going to put in a down payment for both vehicles on the early side. So that's question one. Is that accurate? And then question two, are we still paying for it out of Capital Lease Fund 301?
Yes, definitely. Fund 301, capital lease. The budget numbers that we have in a capital plan, those change all the time, and they've changed dramatically over the last few years with the rising costs of the raw materials. So those have been just really an impossible thing to try to keep up with. I mean, sometimes they've changed in a couple of months. Does this somehow sacrifice what we're going to do in 2026? Well, yeah, to some degree, but I can tell you we're going to take care of the fire department and make sure that they got an ambulance, because, we want to be able to transport, our wounded, around the city to get them to the hospital. I mean, that's definitely a a priority. I don't know if we would care what else was going on. We want to be able to take care of that. That's probably like a number one. And then, some of the other stuff, it becomes fungible. We only have so much money. I mean, if you look at the capital plan, we have like $30 million planned out every year. I mean, we don't have $30 million, but, we're trying to make best use of what we have in our ARPA funding, just trying to balance the interest, come up with, what's feasible each year. And, that's why we meet, and that's why we meet so much, especially during the capital plan development. So it's a process. It's not handled in one meeting or two. It's a series of meetings, really. And, we just try and make best use of it, consider things such as our debt load moving forward. We want to try and keep our bond rating as high as we can. We have an excellent Moody's rating right now. For our Moody's rating were to drop, it means we pay more in interest, which inhibits our ability to, purchase other things that we need. So we're kind of sometimes in the damned if we do, damned if we don't category. Yeah, we go out for a bunch of debt now. The interest rates are kind of high now, or are they going to drop later? There's all these different considerations I think we have to weigh. Yeah, the price of something could go up later. We're doing the best we can with the information that we have right now and with the capacity available to us. There's just so many factors we'd have to consider. This is largely property tax funded. If the property tax goes, down like we saw in 2008, we're going to definitely be impacted like that. It's not going in that direction right now, so that's a good thing. But these are all just considerations we have when we come up with the capital budget and just try to provide for services, not just for the fire department, but throughout the whole community and all the operation that the city has.
Okay, thank you. So we'll keep a weather eye on the cost of inflation to our capital budget, and that'll be an ongoing discussion in the next couple of months as we plan for 2024 and 2025. Okay, thanks.
All right. Any other questions, comments? No? Yes.
Thank you, Councilman Schackner. And just a comment, and I appreciate, and I sense there was some consternation when we referred this to committee. But from my perspective, and the chief did send us an email the Friday before, but us council folks have full-time jobs. We do our best to read all the docket information, to dig into the budget. But having the benefit of time to review this thing, which is a very serious purchase that affects a very serious department that we want to support in our city, we need the time to review these things and understand. Based on the docket information and the communication that came along, I didn't realize that this was already in the capital plan. So having time to then go home and sit and read the previous capital budget and sit with those things, we get ourselves to a place where we understand the need. But I will say that even the communication to council indicated that there was time before the next council meeting that we had to approve this. So I think it is squarely within council's kind of realm to consider and take the time to consider serious capital investments like this is. And we take it seriously. We want to make sure that you all have the equipment you need. We also, are fiduciaries for the city where we have to seriously consider these issues. So that's all I'll say. I'm not on this committee, but I came because this is important. And I look forward to kind of where this goes from here. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Baker. Director Vargo, real quickly, can you go over your proposed substitute?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. They're technical in nature. One is we can't guarantee delivery in 2024. We're hopeful, so we make sure, just out of technicality, that that's expected. The accessory equipment, that is separate from the ambulance. It's actually the, as I understand it, it's the stretcher and the mechanical system for it. We can acquire that separately. We can acquire it in the year we need it. Probably there aren't supply constraints, but because it will be affixed to this very ambulance, we figured since we had the time to bring it to the committee, and so we did so.
All right.
And it's less expensive if we get it now.
Thank you, Director Rankator.
Well, good thing we had the time. I will move to substitute this ordinance. Move to approve the substitute.
Second.
Second. All right, any discussion with that? No? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, I will now move to recommend the resolution as substituted to the full council.
Second.
All right, any discussion with that?
Mr. Chair,
Go ahead.
I wondered if we wanted to just slightly amend Section 2, the language to your point about committing, if we just want to say hereby allocates or something, or are you not concerned about that anymore?
It's not so much as a concern. It can exist or not exist. It means
It's just
as
unenforceable.
much as
It's unenforceable.
if it's there or if it's not. It could be there.
Great.
Yeah, with that, say I appreciate all the time you guys put into, you clearly thought this through. I really appreciate you taking the time out of your day and lives and your families to appear to help us understand this. We're not trying to jam you up, never are. And we really value your time just as much as we value ours, probably more so, according to my wife. But we really appreciate it. So thank you for spending the time and explaining this to us, all right? Thank you. All right, I think it's for a vote now. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, ayes have it. Meeting's adjourned. Thank you.